The city skyline glittered outside the panoramic windows of La Luna, a restaurant so exclusive you could almost taste the stars. Every night, I'd tie my apron, smooth down my uniform, and become just another face in the crowd of servers. My job was to be invisible, efficient, a silent cog in this well-oiled machine of luxury. I'd ferry plates of meticulously crafted food, refill glasses of vintage wine, and offer polite smiles to patrons who rarely looked me in the eye. But as I moved through the soft hum of conversation and the clinking of silverware, my heart was always pulled in one direction, towards the grand piano gleaming under the spotlight on the small stage. Her name was Eleanor, a black Steinway Grand, and she was the soul of the restaurant. Every evening, a professional pianist would sit at her keys, their fingers dancing effortlessly, filling the room with melodies that were elegant, refined, and, to be honest, a little predictable. I knew every piece by heart, not because I was an avid listener, but because I had played them all 1,000 times in my head. Back in my small apartment, on a second-hand keyboard with sticky keys, I'd practice until my fingers ached, dreaming of a stage like this. The melodies the pianist played were the soundtrack to my silent, secret life. My secret was safe, or so I thought. Only one person knew, Chef Antoine, the fiery but kind-hearted head chef. He'd caught me one late night, long after the last guest had departed. I thought the restaurant was empty, and I had tiptoed over to Eleanor, my hands trembling as I gently touched her keys. I couldn't resist. I sat down and let my fingers fly, pouring out all the frustration, the hope, and the longing I kept bottled up inside. I wasn't playing the restaurant's gentle classics. I was playing my own composition, a stormy, passionate piece, full of soaring highs and deep, melancholic lows. When I finished breathless, a slow clap echoed from the kitchen doorway. "Y spoon!" around my heart, leaping into my throat. Chef Antoine was standing there, a rare, genuine smile on his face. He didn't scold me. Instead, he just nodded and said, "Not bad, kid. Not bad at all." From that night on, we had an unspoken agreement. Whenever I closed up, if he was still there finishing his work, he'd let me play. Those late-night sessions became my sanctuary, my only chance to truly be myself, with an audience of one who seemed to understand more than he let on. One Tuesday evening, disaster struck. It was the restaurant's anniversary, the busiest night of the year. The place was packed with food critics, celebrities, and the city's elite. And then we got the call. Mr. Dubois, our regular pianist, was stuck in a massive traffic pileup across town. He wasn't going to make it. A wave of panic washed over the manager, Mr. Henderson. The silence in the restaurant was suddenly deafening, awkward. The gentle ambiance that was our signature had vanished, replaced by a nervous tension. Guests were starting to look around, whispering, an anniversary dinner without music. Unthinkable. Mr. Henderson was pacing, frantically calling every musician in his contact list. But it was too last minute. No one was available. The mood was souring fast. I could see a top food critic tapping his pen impatiently on his notebook. This was a catastrophe in the making, the kind of slip-up that could tarnish a reputation built over decades. I stood by the service station, my tray of empty glasses feeling heavier than ever, my own heart pounding in time with the growing chaos. I wanted to say something, to offer, but the words were stuck. Who was I? Just a waitress. They would laugh me out of the room. That's when I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Chef Antoine. He looked from me to the empty piano, then to the frantic manager, and a determined glint appeared in his eye. He strode over to Mr. Henderson, interrupting his panicked phone call. "I have a solution," he said, his voice cutting through the tension. Mr. Henderson looked at him, desperate. "What? Who? Do you know someone?" Chef Antoine simply turned and pointed his finger directly at me. "Her," he said. "She can play." The entire staff, within earshot, froze. All eyes turned to me. I felt my face flush crimson. Mr. Henderson stared at me, then at Antoine. "Tin bake at me." A look of utter disbelief on his face. "Her, Antoine? Are you insane? She's a waitress. This is not the time for jokes." But Antoine stood his ground. "I'm not joking. I've heard her. The kid's got real talent. What have you got to lose?" The critic is about to walk out. He was right. We were losing the night. Mr. Henderson looked at me, his eyes pleading and skeptical all at once. Can you really play?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. I took a deep breath, looked at the grand piano, and gave a small, trembling nod. It was the most terrifying and exhilarating moment of my life. "Fine," Mr. Henderson sighed, defeated. "Go. Just play something. Anything." The other servers stared as I untied my apron and walked towards the stage. My legs felt like jelly. Every eye in the restaurant was on me, a mix of curiosity and pity. A waitress, trying to save the night. It sounded like a joke. I sat down on the plush velvet bench, the keys of the Steinway cool beneath my fingertips. I took one more deep breath, closed my eyes, and thought of all those late nights, all the dreams I had poured into my music. Then, I began to play. I didn't play one of the restaurant's standard pieces. I played my own song, the one I had played for Chef Antoine that first night. The melody began softly, a quiet, questioning theme that seemed to capture the nervous energy in the room. Then, it swelled, growing in power and emotion, telling a story of struggle and hope, of being hidden in plain sight. The whispers in the room died down, replaced by an awestruck silence. Forks and knives were set down. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. All that existed was the music, pouring from my soul, filling every corner of the vast dining room. When the final note faded into the air, a beat of profound silence hung in the room. It felt like an eternity. Then, someone started to clap. It was the food critic. He was on his feet. In an instant, the entire restaurant erupted in a standing ovation. The applause was deafening, a roar of approval that washed over me like a tidal wave. I opened my eyes, blinking back tears, and saw 100 smiling faces looking up at me. I looked over and saw Chef Antoine leaning against the kitchen door, that same rare smile on his face, giving me a proud nod. Mr. Henderson looked like he'd just seen a ghost, but a very, very talented one. That night changed everything. The food critic's review came out a few days later. He raved about the food, of course, but a full paragraph was dedicated to the mysterious, astonishingly talented pianist who saved the evening with a breathtaking original composition. My story became the talk of the town. Mr. Henderson offered me the position of resident pianist on the spot, with a salary I could only have dreamed of. I finally got to trade my server's apron for elegant evening wear. My name, once unknown, was now printed on the nightly program. Now, every evening, I walk to my stage, to Eleanor. I still see the same glittering skyline, but now, you feel like I'm a part of Italiana. I'm no longer invisible. When I sit down to play, I see faces in the crowd, looking up at me, not with pity or curiosity, but with anticipation and admiration. Sometimes, when the night is winding down, Chef Antoine will lean against his kitchen door and listen, just like he did that first time. We never really talk about it, but we share a look, an unspoken understanding. It was a single moment of courage, a leap of faith that turned my quiet, secret dream into my beautiful, brilliant reality. Thanks for watching. If you have a hidden talent, don't be afraid to let it shine. You never know whose life it might change, especially your own. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories. Why did no one clap when she stood up? The question hung in the air, unanswered, uncomfortable. The silence stayed. It did not rush away. It did not break. It pressed down on the room. It was thick, heavy, almost scary. The waitress stood slowly from the piano bench. Her legs felt weak, not tired. Weak, in a different way, like her body was unsure if the moment was real. She kept her head down. She waited for laughter, for jokes, for sharp words. She waited for someone to tell her she did not belong there. Nothing came. No sound, no movement. She took one small step back. The sound of a shoe against the floor felt loud in her ears. Still nothing. The room looked frozen. People were there. Tables were full. Light still shone, but time felt stuck. Her heart beat fast, then faster. She wondered if she had made a mistake. Then a soft sound broke the silence. Clap, just one pair of hands. The sound was quiet. Almost un sor, an older guest. Near the window stood up. His face looked pale. His eyes were wet. His hands shook as he clapped again. Clap, clap. The sound echoed gently. Another guest joined. A woman near the center of the room stood up. She clapped slowly. Her lips trembled. Then another guest. Then another. Soon, the room filled with applause. Not loud at first, not proud, not wild. It was slow, real, from the heart. The waitress lifted her head. Her eyes widened. She didn't understand. This was not how moments like this usually ended. People were standing now, one by one, not because they were told to, because they felt it. Some smiled gently. Some wiped their eyes quickly. Some simply nodded, as if saying something without words. The applause grew stronger. It rolled through the room like a wave. The sound wrapped around her like warmth, not heat. Comfort. Her chest tightened. Her throat closed. Tears rolled down her face. She tried to stop them. She tried to breathe slowly. She couldn't. The tears came anyway. She bowed her head slightly. Not because she was told to, not because it was polite, but because she felt small and big at the same time. A guest near the front spoke softly. "Thank you," he said. His voice was low, almost fragile. The words were simple, but they carried weight. Another guest added quietly, "That was beautiful." The waitress didn't know what to say. She had never been thanked like this before, not for something that came from inside her. She stepped away from the piano. Her hands shook again, not from fear this time. From release, from letting go of something she had carried for too long. As she walked back toward her work area, the room felt different. Quieter, kinder. The laughter from earlier felt far away, like it belonged to another night. Eyes followed her, not judging, not loving, seeing. A manager stood near the side of the hall. His face looked stunned. He had watched everything, from the first step toward the piano to the last fading note. He cleared his throat. The sound felt loud in the quiet room. You can take a break," he said. His voice was unsure, almost respectful, like he was speaking to someone new. The waitress nodded. She did not trust her voice. She moved to a small, empty space near the wall. She sat down slowly. Her heart still raced. Her hands rested on her knees. They felt warm now. She thought of all the nights she felt invisible, all the mornings she woke up tired, all the times she told herself to keep going. She never imagined a moment like this. Not here. Not now. Across the room, guests spoke in low voices. "That song reminded me of my mother," one said quietly. "I forgot how music can feel," another replied. Someone whispered, "I judged her too fast." The words floated through the air. They did not hurt this time. The piano sat quietly now, still, patient, like it was waiting again. A few minutes later, a guest approached the waitress. A woman with kind eyes. She stopped at a respectful distance. "I hope you keep playing," she said softly. "The world needs that sound." The waitress looked up. Her eyes were red, her face tired. She smiled through tears. She nodded once. Another guest came. Then another. Each one spoke gently, briefly. No one asked her name. No one needed to. They spoke to her like a person, not a role, not a uniform, not a job. The night continued. Food was served. Drinks were poured, but it was not the same night anymore. Something had shifted. People spoke softer, at least in Edmori. The space between them felt smaller. The piano was no longer decoration. It was a reminder. Later, As the event came to an end, the waitress cleaned tables again. Plates clinked softly. Chairs moved, but her steps felt lighter. To some room, to some work, yet everything felt changed. Before leaving, she walked past the piano once more. She slowed down. She stopped. She placed her hand on its smooth surface. The piano was cool to the touch. No one was watching now. No eyes, no whispers. She smiled. Outside, the night air was cool. The city lights were quiet. She stepped into the night slowly. Her reflection in the glass door followed her. It looked different. Not richer, not famous, but stronger. She walked home under soft street lights. Her footsteps matched her breathing. Her mind replayed the music, the notes, the faces, the silence before the clapping. She realized something important. She had always carried that music inside her, even when life tried to silence it, even when people looked past her. That night did not change who she was. It reminded her. The next morning, she woke early. Sunlight touched the walls of her small room. Dust floated in the air. She sat on the edge of her bed. For the first time in a long while, she felt calm, not excited, not afraid. Just calm. She did not know what the future held. She did not need to. She only knew one thing. Her voice mattered. Not because others heard it, but because it was real. Somewhere across the city, guests from the hall went on with their lives. Meetings, plans, noise. But something stayed with them. A pause. A feeling. A lesson they didn't expect. That talent does not ask for permission. That worth does not wear a label. That silence does not mean emptiness. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room has the loudest story to tell.